2023 Ironman World Championship Kona edition. The athlete guide is finally out, so let's dive into some details. First up, we're going to run through the early onset of what is going to happen before the race. If you already are hip to that, make sure you skip ahead in the video, and let's get rolling here. So athlete guide, make sure you're scrolling down, make sure you're reading it. There are a couple of cool things, new things, things you need to know. First up, make sure you are scheduled or signed up to do your athlete bike check-in because they do have predetermined time slots. Head over there to your email, check it out. There's probably something that's being sent to you or relayed somewhere else. So, schedule of events on page 9. Let's kick it off Friday, October the 6th. The event booth is open 6:30 to 10 a.m. Saturday, October the 7th. Kona Town Fun Run. Make sure you register for that ahead of time. A lot of these events pre-race you can't just show up and do them. You have to register ahead of time. Make sure that you are utilizing these links in here. Street Eats is at 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. next day, October 8th. The training swim is starting 5:30 a.m. for packet pickup to 6:45, with the race starting at 7 a.m. on the dot. Again, you cannot register that day. You can only do your packet pickup for just that swim the day of. October 9th, we keep rolling with things. We have the coffee boat first day, 7 to 10 a.m. There we have the ART techniques here. We also have Heroes of Hawaii, 6 to 8 p.m. Tuesday, October 10th, we have the info booth again. We have a Elevate Rise yoga session here. Make sure you bring your own towel or yoga mat there. It's highly encouraged. Coffee boat again, ART, athlete check-in there is the first day to do that. There's also the Iron Kids Run if you're traveling with family. It's a great time. Make sure you register ahead of time again. And then we also have a couple of new things here. We have a couple of panels where you can harnessing your female psychology or physiology, for performance. There's also a hit play, not pause. For the next stage, and there's also a Iron Kids Dip and Dash starting at 4 p.m. Parade of Nations is 5 p.m., which is a cool event. Make sure you do check that out. Tuesday, October 10th at 5 p.m. Wednesday, the 11th, again, we have yoga. We have the coffee boat again. Continuing, I can't say that word right now. Continuance of the 11th here, 7 a.m. we have ART, the World Championship course. Insider tips is from 8 to noon, and we'll talk about that more on the next couple of pages. Again, we have another day of athlete check-in, 9 to 4 VIP services. And then this is kind of the first real day of things. Race briefings in German is at 9, French at 10, Spanish 11, Portuguese noon, and Japanese is at 1 p.m. We also have Understanding Your Why panel, which is at noon. And then we also have a So It's Your First Time Part 2 panel discussion at 2 p.m. So if you look at the whole days that I've blazed through so far, there's usually something to do at any point in time in the day. Make sure you're picking and choosing which ones you want to go to. If you're out at the race course for the whole day, you're going to get really drained both mentally and physically. So make sure you pick your battles leading up to the race and identify which thing that you want to do beforehand. And if you are doing all of them, you need to be prepared to bring snacks, bring like a daily schedule, and just know how you're going to lay things out ahead of time. Thursday, the 12th, coffee boat again, ART Underpants Run is at 7:30 a.m. Athlete check-in again. We also have the volunteer station, which is 9 to 4 p.m. That's open there. And then we also have another panel that's mental strategies for race day. And then we have at 6 p.m. the welcome banquet. And then at 8 p.m. we have our English race briefing. Friday, October 13th, moving day, meditation session, 7 to 8 a.m. ART accreditation office is also open there. We also have another Instagram takeover for the bike check-in, also bike check-in and cheer for the professional athletes. Bike check-in, 11 to 6 p.m. And then we have everyone else's bike helmet and gear check-in at 11:30 to 6 p.m. Make sure you plan your day ahead of time. Saturday, October 14th, 4:30 a.m. personal needs drop off and transition opens, and that transition does close at 6:15 a.m. The Lost and Found is going to be open starting at 5 a.m. and will be open till 12:30 a.m. the following day. Race start for the professional women are at 6:25. Race start for the physically challenged is going to be at 6:27, and the race start for age group women for the first wave is going to start at 6:40, and we will talk about the waves as well. And that is race day. There are a couple events afterwards, like Banquet of Champions on October 15th at 6 p.m. There is also a couple other things in between. Make sure that you do check out those if you want to attend the last couple of things. Schedule of events for the Ironman stores on page 12. On 13, here's the Insider Tips Racing series that they're going to hold on Wednesday, October 11th. 8 a.m. you're going to have the swim course insider tips. 11 a.m. or 10 a.m. you're going to have the race venue overview tips. And then at 11 a.m. you're going to have the bike and run course insider tips session. So again, if you're keeping track of time, that's 8, 10, and 11 a.m. That's the start time, so it's probably going to run until noon. So if you do attend all three, you're probably going to be there for a big chunk of time. Again, that's a huge chunk of time to get mentally drained out there and weigh the pros and cons, pick your battles, and identify what you want to attend if you want to attend one of these things. Not saying you shouldn't, but I'm just saying if you do all of the events before you do race, it's going to be a lot on yourself. Before we talk about the pre-race information sessions, again, underpants run, the water race on that, I believe it's Sunday. Just make sure when you are doing these things, you're not going all out. It's going to be very easy to do. It happens every year. The best of the best are mixed all together, and it's only natural to kind of mix it up with everyone and kind of ruffle the feathers a little bit. But be careful out there. I would encourage you to do some of your race pacing. Bring your trackers, bring your everything you're using to track your race pace efforts, whether that's GPS, power, heart rate, whatever. And I would employ some of your race strategies out there and don't get too distracted by what others are doing. This is a great opportunity to kind of put some last minute checks in place to see, hey, are my race paces too slow? Are they too fast? Am I not feeling great out here? And maybe we need to slow things down. And a lot of athletes just kind of gloss over that in the week leading up to it. A lot of them just go out there and they totally hammer the 5K. They totally crush the water race, the swim race. So just be careful out there in those days leading up. You don't want to totally overdo it. Instead of racing it, use it as an opportunity to set yourself up for race day. So back to the athlete guide here, page 18, pre-race information. Athlete check-in, all race packets must be picked up by 2 p.m. on Thursday, October 2nd. Okay. Tuesday, October 10th to Wednesday, October 11th, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Thursday, the 12th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Bring everything you need just like normal, photo ID, active QR code, USAT member card, wristband, wear it. There are no lifeguards on duty in the ocean. It is swim at your own risk, and we'll dive into that in a minute. Mandatory bike helmet and bike run bag check-in. Mandatory bike helmet and bike and run gear bag is on Friday the 13th from 11:30 to 6 p.m. Again, make sure you are registered for your allotted time and you are attending that at that time. Full bike covers are not permitted, as is usual. Bike gear, the bags that you get during athlete check, in the gray is the pre-swim / morning clothes, the blue is the bike, the green is personal needs, the red is the run, and the yellow is the run personal needs. Bags are restricted an event site on race day. So, no pumps in the transition area in the morning. They will have that there, pre-race info for timing. Essentially, just wear your timing chip on your left ankle. You will receive your timing chip during the bike, helmet, and gear bag check-in the day before the race. Purse prizes are listed here in case you are interested. We do have the swim start times, which are listed right here. 6:25, race start professional women. 6:27, physically challenged. 6:40, the women 35 to 39 waves start. 6:45, we have the women 60 to 84. We have 6:50 is the women 55 to 59, and so on and so on. A big kind of a gift for the women 35 to 39 here is you're going to have a big buffer, and you might be leading the race for the age groupers for quite some time out there. So that's going to be a really, really cool thing if you are them. Remember, no chip, no time. One thing, I believe it is on this page. Um, if you do not want to race, make sure you let them know. I guess it's not here, but there is a telephone number here, so make sure you call them and let them know that you are not racing. If you do pick up your chip and just decide for whatever reason you're not going to, make sure you let them know. Page 21, physical addresses for the swim, transition, and finish line are all listed here. And again, pre-race morning procedure. Prior to arriving, you will apply your race number tattoos on your upper arm. Remember to bring your chip strap and your swim cap and goggles there. You will have to do a tattoo check when you are walking into the transition on race morning, and in a second I'll show you exactly where that is going to be. Aid stations on the bike are going to have the typical fixings here, plus potato chips and oranges. On the run, you're going to have, again, the typical things all over here, and it is going to be very well stocked, or it is usually. All personal needs bags will be discarded after the race, and official athlete clear bags are the only bags allowed on race morning for safety purposes. On page 21, they do list the aid stations locations, which is very, very cool, something they have not done in other races, but you can get a good representation of where the aid stations are out on course for the bike, but also the run. And you could just quickly see here, there are 10 aid stations on the bike and 24 on the run. So again, usually well-stocked aid stations for the most part, and there are plentiful options for you out there. Scrolling down here, race timing and cutoffs are listed on page 24. This is another brand new thing this year, no riding on roads south of Kona town. Also this red section of road that they have mapped out over here. Make sure you are avoiding riding on those roads, and another supporting athletes on the run course. Riding against traffic will while providing support to athletes running is unsafe and against the law. You may result in traffic citations, so please follow all traffic laws while training on the island. So just be careful out there. Realize you are a guest in someone else's neck of the woods, so just treat it like you would be treating it if you were at home, okay? Keeping a scroll down here, page 27, make sure you're using mineral sunscreen for the coral reefs out there so we don't keep killing them. On page 28, race day information. This is the kind of the race morning athlete flow of things, and it all starts on the far side of the hotel here. There's going to be some porta johns over here, and this is the road that goes up to Palani and the hot corner over here, to kind of put it into perspective. So you're going to walk around the hotel here, and again, this is for athletes only. This is the official start of the day for athletes only. Once you enter in here, this is going to be the body marking area. They're going to check your tattoos. If not, they're going to touch them up for you. You're going to walk around over here. There's usually bathrooms right over here. Athlete food for after the event here, along with the photo staging area. A lot of times athletes do their warm-up swims right in here to get ready, so you can choose to do that or not. That would be a question to ask at the athlete briefing whenever your time slot is. There's going to be a medical tent over here. Again, you'll follow the flow over here where you will have bike access. You will not have access to your bags, I believe. And then you will hop out over here. This is the timing mat right here. And then number 3, as you'll see here, I guess it's not labeled, but number 3 here is the third step over here. You're going to go to your swim corral over here. You're just going to follow the red arrows essentially. You're going to hook around here, swim corral 4, 3, 2, 1 over here, and the professionals are going to be right up in here. You can see this is the blue area, the finish line. You will not cross that, so do not worry, any superstitious athletes. I totally get it, but don't worry, you will not touch the finish line, so no need to jinx it. All right. That is the morning procedure up in a nutshell, in a super fast kind of breakdown. Page 31 is the swim course, and now we're going to kind of get into the meat and potatoes of everything. And I totally blew through the first pre-race informations. So again, if you have any questions, reach out. Happy to help you kind of in your lead up to the race here. But our swim. So now it's time to get a little nitty gritty, and you can use some of this info for the pre-race swim along with the race swim itself. So this is a typical map of the currents on Hawaii right here. This is what you're going to see as normal. It might be slightly different on race day, but this is what you can expect to see out there. So what that means is our swim course is right through here, and I'll draw a little arrow for you so you can see. Our swim course is going to be right here. You're going to go over, and you're going to go right back in. Right? You'll see that that back way in is going to be a little bit faster, but what you will also see if I switch back over to the athlete guide here, and they should have, I'm going to scroll up and down a little bit here. Here is not a great representation. This is a better one. So on that swim finish here, because the current kind of does push us a little bit, it's going to naturally drive us into this pier here. They also tell you in the athlete guide that this is littered with sharp marine life, sea urchins included, and to be very, very careful getting too close to this area over here. They usually do a very decent job, but it is not uncommon for a couple of athletes to get a little too close, and it's always a terrible sight to see someone get way too close to that, and their day is kind of shot before they get out of the water. So just be aware of that. You can practice it in your pre-race swims when you're getting out there, getting a feel for the water when you walk off right through here, the water entry here. You can see that they have set up some buoys over there, and they say just, don't go over in this area here. They do not want you swimming over there because they know that there is sharp marine life over there, and it is potentially dangerous. And the water naturally pushes you over to that pier. Just be careful on race day. So after you do this 1 or 2 times, practice it on your own. You can do it in the pre-race swim to get a great feel for it. You'll have a great sense of how strong that push is going to be over to that pier. So that is just a quick first little update for you on the swim. So the way out is going to be a little bit challenging for you, and you probably aren't even going to notice it for this first section of the race. Adrenaline's going to be high. You're mixing it up with the best, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be really, really fun. And on this course, you just have to be careful with how much fun you have. Allow other people to do the work because a lot of egos are out there. They're going to naturally want to kind of set the pace, and that's great for you. This is one of the best races for drafting after we get past the first 500 or 600 meters out there, just because everyone really wants to go. After you get past this point, this next little section, and I'm going to do it so you can really see the whole way out over here, that is really going to be, it's going to start to open up big time because there is a little bit of a head current. Some of the stronger swimmers are naturally going to start to go towards the front, and that's exactly what you want as a stronger swimmer. Weaker swimmers, your job is to kind of hold them off, but within your abilities, and I say that it should be bold, within your abilities. Everyone kind of forgets how they got there, and if they're not a strong swimmer, they really want to mix it up with the best of the best swimmers. So don't do that. If you can hang on to them and you're like the 5th or 6th person in a big group, that is totally different than just hanging on to one really fast person. So be careful out there. My not strong swimmers out there, if you do lose the group, kind of in this area right through here, do not panic. Just start swimming your pace. You're going to catch people as the swim progresses. Even if people start to creep up on you, that's okay again, because if you are 5th, 6th, I almost said wheel, but if you are 5th, 6th person in the water in that echelon, you're going to get a natural pull along with you, and that's really going to help at this first long stretch over here. This area right through here can be great, or it can be a little bit rocky depending on the current and depending on the speed of it and the wind that is on race day, which we'll talk about for the bike in a second here. Again, this is going to be another area where you're going to be really, really observant during your pre-race swim. If you're not doing the pre-race swim, you can get a decent sense of it right out here if you don't want to swim the whole loop by yourself, which is, again, totally understandable. And it's not going to be exactly what you will experience on race day, but it'll be close enough for you to get an idea of what's going to happen out there. Very, very common for athletes to kind of get not lost, but just disoriented out here a bit. You know, sometimes their sighting might shoot them off into this way or a little bit this way, or even kind of in between. And again, I always tell people don't get super caught up in that in the this first little stretch here. Even if you do go a little beyond where you should, right? You can really self-correct very, very easily when it is that far away. What you don't want to do if you find yourself out there is zig over here and then zag over there and then zig and zag your whole way over. Straightest lines possible are going to be the most beneficial for you. And again, they're going to have a lot of people out there that are preventing you from drifting out into the ocean. Okay, that is the last thing they want, so they're going to have people out there for sure. The way back in is typically assisted with you, so again, a lot of the damage that you are going to do on your competitors, believe it or not, is probably in this first section that we talked about right through here. Steady swimmers or stronger swimmers, you can continue that for the remainder of this stretch here, but my mediocre or kind of back of the pack swimmers aren't going to be doing a ton of damage at this point in the race there. Okay, your job is going to be catch up on the bike and especially the run, which is probably how you got here anyways. Okay, so the last kind of halfway point on the way back in here, your job is to think about what's going to happen when you get into the transition, the order of operations, and you're going to be able to experience the Kona Pier firsthand, which is an awesome, awesome thing on race day. And as we kind of continue our race strategy, you just want to keep thinking about that pier and not pushing off or not getting super close to it. I apologize for the blurriness out here, but I'll read you some of the highlights over here so you can kind of get a feel for what I'm talking about. So after the pros and the physically challenged kickoff here, that women's 35 to 39 group, 6:40 a.m., they're going to have a 10-minute gap off of the 55 to 59-year-olds, and they're going to have a 15-minute or 20-minute gap off of the 30 to 34-year-olds. So the 35 to 39-year-olds, you're going to have a great opportunity to lead this race out of the water and probably for a big chunk of the bike, at least the first kind of third of the bike. And that's going to be a really, really cool thing. Women 30 to 34, you're going to have a tougher time kind of sifting through the packs or the corrals that are ahead of you. So just be mindful of that. Your swim is going to be a little more crowded. You're not going to have as clean of water. Same thing for these other corrals, or the other waves is probably a better thing. Same thing for the other waves that are released after this. You're going to have, since you are kind of the faster age bands, you are going to have on the way back in, it's going to be a little rough for you. I'm not going to beat around the bush, okay? But your job is to pass or be passed on the way back in. And your race is going to feel like you're going hard the whole time, but even in reality, if you are going your pace back in, getting a little assist, and you just keep coming on people, just continuously check in on yourself and how you are pacing the way back in. Because it's very, very common for athletes to go way too hard out there. But again, if you are a decent swimmer, and you probably are because you're at Kona, you know, you'll be able to hold your pace and actually catch up to a lot of ladies out there. So just be mindful of that when you are released according to your corral or your wave. The women 45 to 49, you probably are going to have one of the toughest times out there. Faster swimmers in this group, mediocre swimmers in here. You're probably going to have a little bit cleaner water for a little while, which will be a great change, but you will also come up on people. 18 to 24-year-olds, chances are you do have a couple of serious swimmers in there. So if you are in that group, you're going to want to look for those individuals and kind of hang on them because they are going to bolt out of this world. It's going to be awesome to watch. Swim course rules are on page 33, and again, page 34. This is the swim course recommendations for the days leading up to the swim. And they also say, there's no lifeguards on duty. They make specific mention that there is that marine mammal life on this side of the pier. So just be very, very careful in the days leading up to it. Follow the buoys. They put them out there for a reason. And this is the swim to bike transition on page 35. This is how you're going to swim in right through here. I also forgot to mention that the swim start happens in the water, right? So they're going to release everybody out here. Everybody's going to make their way up. You're going to make your way up to the paddle boarders next wave limit sign or next wave limit, and there's going to be a bunch of people out there going back and forth, preventing you from going forward. When the wave in front of you leaves, they will release you or after it's all clear, and then this wave or these borders will close up again, so you have the ability to go up here, but not anything further. And when it's your time to go, they will stop, turn over, and you'll just swim right through them. It's really, really cool. Not uncommon for an athlete to whack their hand on a paddleboard, so make sure you're aware of where you're swimming. So that first little bit is a bit chaotic for a number of reasons. There's a ton of people around. It's an in-water start. You got to swim through paddleboarders. For people like me, I think it's fun. It's a great, great thing. But for a less comfortable swimmer out there, it might be a bit intimidating. So again, just be mindful of that, and you can practice that on race day. You go out there, practice your race start. There's going to be some bigger waves out there. It will kind of calm down a little bit once you get out there. And two big last things I didn't talk about the swim yet is the waves out there. There will be some rocking to the course, but you should be able to figure out the timing of the waves. Time those waves, sight at the top of the waves. Last big thing, because it is a saltwater swim, it's not uncommon for people to accidentally swallow some salt water. If you do, your race isn't totally over. There are some things you can do to counteract that, like drink a ton of water when you do get back out. That's going to counteract the salt water that's in your system. You are going to have a battle on your hands later on in the day, but that is going to help you get down the road a little bit further. Your strategy will change a bit if that happens. So again, be very, very careful of that. And if you do swallow a ton of salt water, that's a totally different story there. So when you do get back in, again, watch out for the pier. This is going to be the swim finish here. A is the showers here. I am the kind of person that always tells people do not blaze through here unless you're really, really a front runner here. Getting that seawater off of your body is, in my mind, very, very important to avoid chafing and, just other blisters later on in the day. But that's a personal preference, I guess. B is the bike bags. You're going to head over there. C is the physically challenged tent over there. D is the change tent. So you're going to grab your stuff. You're going to hop in tent D. E is the run bag. So you're just going to blow right past that. And F is the swim to bike aid. I'm going to imagine that is the sunscreen area. Another common place for athletes just to totally blow by. That is the number one thing that you need to do in transition. You need to find where the sunscreen is and just have them put it on you. And it's usually quick. There's usually a couple people doing it. They load up their gloves, rub it all over you, and you're going to be a big gooey mess for a little bit. But again, I would rather be that than just totally 2-degree sunburn on your body, because you will feel that before the run is over for sure if you skip it. You're going to continue down to the bottom of the pier where you do a little turnaround here. You're going to hop into your bike rack lane. And again, because this race is a little bit different here, I do expect there to be big bunches coming into the transition at once. So it's going to be a little bit crowded. People are going to be in the way. You're going to see some people take their bikes out in just sheer panic and crash into other people's bikes in transition. Mark my words, it's going to be a thing. I also believe, and this is another thing to ask, that you have to have your helmet on your bike at transition on race morning. I do not believe that the helmets go in the bags in transition. So again, another quick question to follow up, and you could probably ask that one when you are checking in the days leading up to the race. This is the timing line over here, and again, this is a little bit of a longer run that you are going to perform out onto the bike course where the mount line is up all the way over here. right? So this is that hotel entrance, King Kamehameha's entrance over here, and the bike mount line is way up here. It is a fair distance to travel out there. So while you're still at home, you might want to think about looking at the bottom of your cleats. If they are kind of on their last leg, you might want to think about getting a new pair of the clips if you are using one of those systems. If you're a barefoot runner and you just hop on your bike with your shoes already on there, that's a different thing. But make sure that you are finalizing your equipment checks. It happens almost every year where one person tries to get out of that transition, drops a chain, their chain breaks, something happens, and they cannot finish the race because of something silly like that. So make sure you check your equipment while you still have the time. Okay. And then once you hit the bike mount line, you're off, and there is a little tiny hill that you will go up to the hot corner. So make sure you're not in a super heavy gear, because that's only going to complicate things even further. One last thing before we get out totally onto the bike, this section right through here is another wild one on the bike. There's usually a lot of people around. People are struggling to get clipped in, and people are looking down at their bikes, not looking down at anybody else. So watch out for others here. This is a very key area on the bike. Not uncommon for an athlete or two to connect right here. And again, it's low speeds, but it is annoying because it's in the first 0.1 of the bike. So there's a lot to think about and that goes into T1 for the Hawaii World Championships. Walk through it beforehand if you can, and that should help ease some of the tension. Full gas bike course is next. This is a classic course, and we are going to dive into some nitty-gritty details out here. The first big one, we are going to go over to one of my favorite websites, and we are going to check out the wind here. So I'm going to run you through a couple of scenarios out here, and I'm recording this on the 29th, pretty late at night here. So we have about a week's worth of stuff ahead of time here. And you're going to see a couple of cool things from this site. So this is where you're going to start. You're going to go down here and you're going to go all the way back up. And I'll zoom out for you a little bit so we can get the full range here. You're going to go down here and then you're going to go all the way up to Hawaii before you go back down into Kona town, or Kona, before you head out on the run. So as we roll through here, this is the 8 a.m. on Sunday, October the 1st here. And as I switch to 11 a.m., the wind shifts a little bit. By 2 p.m., it does another little shift. And that's not a huge day. Let's go to Tuesday out here. And you can see here, 8 a.m., this is what the winds look like. So you're going to have a tailwind going out of Kona, and you're turning around for a headwind, and you have a cross headwind pretty much all the way up before you have a tailwind going up to Hawaii. But then at 11 a.m., it starts to shift a little bit, and this zone kind of starts to swirl. By 2 p.m., this is what it looks like here with the headwind coming back into Kona here. Friday, we're going to do the exact same thing, checking it at 8 a.m. You're going to have a tailwind going out before you do your out and back, and then you're going to go back to Kona, back up to the airport, over up to Hawaii. But by 11, it starts to shift a little bit more. By 2 p.m., it starts to shift a little bit more with a serious crosswind heading back into Kona. And if we did want to go back to like Saturday or something like this, again, you can see here that the wind is a headwind going back into town here. So what I would do is I would just keep a loose eye on this in the days leading up to the race. I would prepare for a headwind going back into Kona. If you read the athlete guide, they say the exact opposite. But if we do look around, you can get a better sense of what's happening out on the island here. So at a 8 a.m. start, what usually happens here, and we're going to switch to particles out here so you can get a better view here. Love this wind finder site. Since Hawaii is a giant, let's call it a giant cone out here, the wind kind of swirls around the top portion out here, right? And because of that, you get all kinds of circles and vortexes out here, which is really cool. By 11, it shifts a little bit. By 2, it shifts even more, right? So that's Saturday, this is Sunday, this is Monday, right? And it's usually pretty predictable out there, right? But again, there are some days where the wind does kind of have this swirling motion, right? And it throws it back in here. This is at 2 p.m. By 11 a.m., it's a little bit different, okay? So some of those days where the races have awesome split times, they always talk about the wind, and that is why, right? Because the island is a big cone, and depending on where the wind is going on that day, it will have major implications because of these areas out through here. And again, you can just keep going throughout the days here, and again, it's only going to get more and more accurate as the days kind of go by. But on the days that they do have these these awesome times, right? When they do have that, the wind is usually pushing out and it switches, right? You do have this swirl that happens, right? So as it gets later on in the day, something like this would be a great Ironman day for us. A great, great one, right? You have kind of an assisted wind going down Javi, although that pretty much almost never happens. You're usually battling up and down that. And then you have kind of this wind that keeps pushing you, and there's a dead zone right through here, which in 1 second you'll find out why that's important. And then on the way back in, it just pushes you back in. But we do have a bit of a crosswind here. So expect wind, expect a challenge on this course. This is the best bike split course for one of our athletes here. You'll notice that there is a big red flag right at the beginning here. That is kind of the hot corner here, and you'll find out what that is in 1 second here. So as we get out of our race course here, we are going to go up and around down Palani before we go back all the way out here. Make a little turnaround, up Palani again, back out to the main bike course here. And all of that happens in the first, let's call it 9 miles, I believe. 8 miles here. Let's highlight this. So on this course, we have about 5,300 feet of elevation gain-ish, give or take. Of this one that's been mapped out here, we have 516 feet in these first 8 miles. The hot corner is this area right through here, right? When we go out, you'll be able to see your athlete right there. They'll come back around down here very quickly. You'll get to see them a second time. They'll go out and back in. You get to see them a third time in a very, very short amount of time. After that, you can kind of just hang out. But for the athlete, this is a notoriously fast section, right? And it doesn't have to be a fast section here. This is a fast section because adrenaline's pumping. You got out of the swim. Holy crap, you're here at Hawaii. It's go time, right? And because you're surrounded by the best athletes in the world, you want to chase those best athletes in the world because you think you deserve to be there, and you do. You got there for a reason. But what everyone doesn't realize is, they got there based off of how they race, right? Not other people. And they usually get caught up in this area here, and it doesn't really end until they get past the airport. And even then, it continues for a little bit before most people kind of connect the dots and say, let's come back a little bit. But this area, you will almost always see athletes racing each other. It's a super fast section here. It's usually hard to kind of get away from people in this section unless you're really putting down power. So you're going to see a lot of surging in here. Professionals, you kind of don't have a choice. You kind of have to do the exact opposite of what I'm saying here. You kind of have to stick with the group. All right. Everybody else, I want you to kind of race your race here. Don't get so caught up in the games that are going to be played here. They're dangerous games, so just watch out. And then after we get away from that, we're going to our next big key area out on course here. This section through here, we have 820 feet of elevation gain. And again, this is from 6.5 miles to 25 miles, So of these first 25 miles, we have about 1,000 feet of elevation gain. And a lot of people don't realize there's a constant up and down here. You're not going to be in one gear for very long on this course when you're not battling the terrain. You're going to be battling the elements. And when you're not battling those two things, you're going to be battling other age groupers. I believe on this course you have 25 seconds to make the pass on another athlete, and if there is another athlete in front of them, you have 25 seconds to pass that athlete in front of them, and so on and so on and so on. So if there is a major group of people out on this course, make sure that you are confident you can pass them, otherwise you're going to get a penalty on them, or you're going to get a penalty. This is also another major area where athletes set themselves up for failure. These first 25 miles are almost always filled with exactly what I talked about earlier. Watch your pacing, watch your heart rate. Chances are, if you are one of these people that is just totally flooring it right now, your heart rate's going to be a little bit higher. You're probably not fueling. You're probably not taking any electrolytes, water, calories, any of that stuff here. You're going too hard, and that sets yourself up for disaster later on. Enjoy this part of the ride. It's going to be a little bit challenging, absolutely, but it's nothing you haven't done leading up to this point in time of the race. Next big section out there, once you get past there, it does kind of calm down a little bit. Another area that you do want to watch out for is, that's going to back me out here, 1 second, is the gas station right through here. You're going to climb up a little hill, you're going to make a left-hand turn onto the highway, and then this section right through here is an easy opportunity for you to pass some people, okay? You're going to go down a hill, you're going to be going pretty fast here, and you're going to veer off to the right at the gas station. A really common place for pros to totally hammer it on the way back in, but age groupers on the way back out, if you carry your speed through this corner, you're going to make this next section a bit easier. You do go up into a hill here, so if you do carry your speed, you're going to be, that hill's going to be a lot easier, number one. But number two, most people don't do that here. Most people are heavy on the brakes there, and they pay for it. This is an area where they do have to surge to maintain with a group and with everyone that does just kind of get through that corner. I would suggest you drive it to kind of figure out what I'm talking about there. But backing up a bit to this section that we haven't talked about yet, again, another 725 feet of elevation gain through this point in time before the gas station that we just talked about there. It's up, it's down. You're going to have, you're going to have 3%, 4% mixed in. You're going to have the gradients that are just harder than you want them to be out there. And that's kind of the best way to say it for this section. You're going to ride these rollers, and it's just you're going to have to work a little bit more than you want to kind of get up them. Make sure you are paying attention to your surges and your increases in power to get up these hills. If it is a major windy day out there, you might have to change your strategy, and that's something that you have to do while you're out there, okay? If you have a major group pulling you along, again, you're going to have to change your strategy. Make sure you are being mentally with it out there. A lot of athletes are going to throw their brain out the window when they get out there, and they just turn it off, and it's just race time, and before you know it, they get to Hawi, and it is rough. Section leading up to Hawi here, we're just going to highlight this whole thing here. This has about 1,200 feet, 1,100 feet of elevation gain in here. Once you do start this section right through here, it starts to climb up. The climb proper doesn't start till about mile 53-ish in there. And spoiler alert, you will have to work both up and down this hill. And again, this hill, if we go over it right, it's nothing too crazy. It's nothing, like it's not 10% for a while. Right? But it does last from about mile 53 all the way up to, let's call it about miles 59.5. So a good chunk of time, right? So all of you trainer riders, this is going to be perfect for you. You're just going to have the tension on the chain the entire time up this thing. But it's this section beforehand that kind of breaks you on Hawi. And again, this area is very easy to overdo while you're out there. Be very mindful of that when you are doing this section, because Hawi's coming up and you just got to be very careful. You're going to have to work up Hawi, so I would kind of save your legs here, but a lot of people, what they do is the opposite of what I just said. Totally crush this section here, totally pay for it on Hawi, and Hawi is the hardest climb ever if you talk to them. Way back down, this is a first on this channel. I'm highlighting it downhill for you, and we're going to talk about it for a couple of seconds. This downhill here, Again, you're going to have to work down it. There's just no other way to kind of get around it. The wind is going to be howling here. If you don't have to work going down this hill, it's going to throw you down this hill. Be very, very careful here. Watch out for other athletes that are totally comfortable, confident on their bike. If you are not, make sure you're staying to the right. Watch out for the winds here. This is going to be probably one of the times where it is the highest winds when you're going up and down. So make sure you're in total wind protocol there. Over the course, and this is a great time to kind of bring this up as we are starting to head back into town. We haven't talked about fueling, right? You're going to have to be confident with taking your hand off of one of the bars here and fueling. The wind is going to be there. You're going to have to pick up the hand where the wind is coming from. That opposite hand is bracing you, right? And you're just going to have to get the food in that way, calories, electrolytes. You're going to have to. Otherwise, again, the elements out there are not conducive to going a whole race without fueling. You just have to. So pick your spots out there. Make sure you're watching the road ahead of you, seeing where athletes are kind of wavering and moving. You know a crosswind is about to come. You might want to fuel before that or after you get through that section. But either way, don't forget to out here. Very common again and I know this is the sixth point I've brought up that's super common, is for athletes to not fuel out there. And by the time they get all the way back to the airport, then they're shoving everything back in their system and they can't run for the first 10 miles of the run. Be very aware of that out there. This is a very unforgiving course, so just be available to fuel whenever you can. Next big section that we are talking about is about miles 66 to 78. We do have about 540 feet of elevation gain in here, and again, it's up, it's down, it's all around here. If we go back to the wind finder app, this area is typically swirling depending on where you are in the day. The wind's going to be a little bit lighter, a little bit not. 2 p.m., we're going to highlight, or let's do 11 a.m. to make it a little bit more realistic for everyone. That wind is picking up on a couple of days, and it just depends what happens on race day. It's a little too early to see that one. But this is, kind of typical out there. Then we do hit this little section in here that is the dead zone out there in terms of wind. And that area usually happens right through here before it starts picking up. This area, 78 to, let's call it 90 miles out there, 715 feet of elevation. And if you're kind of picking up on this fact, everything I've highlighted has over 600 feet of elevation gain, aside from going down from Javi. So this is definitely not a throwaway course at all. Very, very tough. These hills that are mixed in here, again, we're talking for 5%ers through this point in time here. And again, it's just going to be a little bit harder than you want it to be from a course terrain perspective. We'll talk about weather and stuff and drinking in a second. But just from a course terrain perspective, it's just going to be a little bit harder than you want it to. So don't let that eat up at you. But by the time you get out here, and it didn't highlight, for the last section out on course here, the wind will pick up, right? And that is a super daunting thing on a race course. As you get to this point in time, you're going to get close. I'm almost there. I'm almost on the run. I can't wait to run a Leahy Drive. I'm pumped. And then this wind is going to slowly start to pick up and up and up and up and up. And as you get closer, the wind's going to make it feel like it's harder and you're going slower to the transition. Some days. Other days, it could be throwing you in there. It just depends what is happening. I hope you guys have a tailwind on the way back in, but I just want to prepare you for if you have a headwind or a serious crosswind, which isn't super uncommon. So just be mindful. Just be careful of that. Don't get down on yourself. And again, watch the fuel here. Very common for athletes to just kind of shut it down because they're panicking with the wind if it's a headwind or a crosswind. If it is a serious tailwind and they are getting absolutely thrown to the transition too, again, athletes kind of turn off that fueling ability here because they're going fast and they haven't had the ability to go fast in a while, and it feels great. Remember why you got there. You got there from a plan. Stick to your plan, hydration, nutrition, pacing, and all that good stuff. So let's switch back to the Best Bike Split app, and I've taken off speed because it's a little bit busy, as you can see. First couple of miles, your speed's going to be higher, then it's going to be a little wavery, but you're going to build it up to HAVI, which it's going to drop, and then you're going to slowly build back up here, that gas station right through here, and then it's going to slowly drop here before it increases again, just like we talked about there. Now that we've got rid of the speed, you can really start to get a power perspective out here on race day, and I'm just going to draw a couple of lines so you can get a general representation of what is happening out on race day. And these lines, they're not absolute. Of course, you need to adjust on the fly out there, but this is just what typically happens out there on race day. If the winds are different, if your pack dynamics are different, of course this is going to change. This is just a suggestion here. If you do wanted to check out the time analysis for a course like this, I've already taken the liberty of doing my favorite thing out here, and you could see there are a ton of tiny sliver lines, and that is exactly, if I can get to it, right here, right? This is the 5-second gain for a minute 50 work out there, and again, it's not totally unrealistic to do that stuff. So these things add up over time. What you want to avoid is something like this, for a 9.7 second gain, you can work harder for 9 more minutes. You kind of want to avoid that stuff. But you'll see that happens at the earlier part of the race before 20 miles. And there's 3 bigger sections right through here. And again, a lot of athletes are going to chase those tiny time goals that take a long time to achieve. So just, kind of let them go. That's what I would do, unless it's a huge pack of like 20 people, which will happen out there. And that's kind of the bike in a nutshell out there. Last major thing that everyone needs to be mindful of is their cooling strategies for the bike. I'm not going to give everything away to you because I want my athletes to kind of have a leg up on you, but you need to be aware of what's happening out there in terms of your body temperature and how you can kind of maintain that to get you down the road a little bit faster. So now switching back to the athlete guide, that was the really long bike breakdown. And again, if you want more specifics, let me know. The bike course rules are on page 39 for you to kind of peruse through. And they continue on 41. Recommendations for the bike course on page 42. And again, bike pumps and backpacks not accepted in the pre-swim/morning clothes bag. There will be stuff there for you like bike pumps. Believe me, they'll have plenty there. Bike to run transition, coming off of Palani Road here, you will come flying into the transition. Make sure you are aware of the mount/dismount line, which is right through here. Remember that bike mount line was up here, but the dismount line is all the way back here. I believe I read that they will not have bike catchers, so I think you're going to have to rack your bike yourself. If I am wrong about that, I hope I am. That's a little bit better, but I would expect to rack your bike, go back to the bottom of the pier here where you're running around and you're doing the exact opposite thing we did before. Run bags are in tent D, change tents are in tent C right here. The physically challenged athletes are in tent B. So age groupers, you're going to be going to tent D and then tent C. Out you go. Before, you do not skip the A area, which is the bike to run aid, where they will have sunscreen. Again, don't skip that one. And a lot of people do. It's an easy one. It takes maybe 10 seconds, maybe. Okay, they're usually pretty good about it. Timing mats, again, right through here, right after the bike dismount, and right here going out. So after you cross this line here, you are officially on the Ironman World Championships run course. And the same thing that happened on the bike is going to happen on the run here. Very, very frustrating thing. As you go out to the bike, and before we talk about that, the finish line is right through here. Bleachers are also right through here. There's a crosswalk right before the bleachers and the ultimate finish line there. So going back out onto the run course, this is the 2023 version of the Ironman run course here. So what happens is, and I'll zoom in a bit for you out here. So as you get out onto the run, you're going to exit the transition, zigzag up to the hot corner where you will take a right-hand turn. Then you're going to take another right-hand turn like you would when you finish going on a Leahy Drive, but then you're going to take a left to keep going there. This section is usually a time where most athletes, believe it or not, don't totally crush it, but it's usually a little bit faster than they should be going out there. There's usually two camps out here in Hawaii. The really go-getters right from the gun, or the ones that kind of ease into it, okay? I'm more of an ease into it fan, especially at Kona. You're going to want to shake out the legs a little bit from the hard bike that you just had. You're also going to want to get ready for the one of the harder run courses out there. And again, this course has about 1,000 feet of elevation gain, give or take 100 or 200. So again, not a throwaway course at all. You know. So if you're running on all cylinders here, by the time you get to a Leahy Drive here, that's kind of, in my mind, when you can really start to kind of run out here. And again, I wouldn't totally jump into your race pace out here. I would kind of get a feel for the course and slowly just kind of, build that steam engine speed. Just slowly build it up. As you start to make your way down a Leahy Drive here, you're going to start to feel the elements of the weather pretty instantly. It's going to be pretty instantaneous out there. My favorite spot to hang out on the run course is usually right around here. I find that I can find athletes kind of running their race, and you can get a really good gauge off of what's going to happen in the day right out here. I find that this area is very busy. If you are a spectator wanting to view your athlete, this is going to be the place to be because you'll see them a little bit more. But back throughout here, it's kind of more of a party vibe and, a little bit more laid back. Bikers biking along with their athletes is going to be prohibited here. So if they do see that, you're going to get an automatic DQ. So I would not do that, coaches or super Sherpas. You're going to have to let them kind of run their race. Also, if you are running alongside them, there is the potential to give them a penalty on this course. So be very, very careful with what you do out on the race. And again, this is a race for the athletes out there. But back to us. So going back down a Leahy Drive, it's going to be hot. You're going to be a little bit tired from the bike. I'm going to be real with you guys. And you're going to have to figure out how everything is going off. Alarm bells should be going off right from the beginning when you get in transition. What was my nutrition like? How was my pacing on the bike? How am I feeling? What's my heart rate been like? What was my power? Just go through the list. Ask yourself questions. Figure out what's going on with you. And if everything's good, everything's good. But what a lot of people do is they wait for this turnaround here or a little bit beforehand before they start asking themselves questions. And this part of the run isn't hard, right? But a lot of athletes make it hard. A lot of athletes are trying to run like the professionals out here, or they're trying to look good for their photos, their family and friends, which is totally understandable, but it's kind of the opposite of what you should be doing out there. You should be getting your legs underneath you, figuring out what worked well on the bike or didn't, and correcting that here. Because the run course only gets harder from here. So if a Leahy Drive is hard, you need to figure out why it's hard and make the course a little bit easier. If your pace is too fast, don't be afraid to slow down. A lot of athletes are going to slow down on this course because once you start to turn around right through here, then it's going to get hard fast. You're going to run up a couple of softer hills on a Leahy Drive, going back up to kind of this really, really busy area before things really start to kick off. And they do happen right before you make this right-hand turn. You're going to slowly start to go up. And this is the first elevation standpoint key to the course. This is about the fourth or fifth to the run now. Going up to Palani here, this is a 6% hill-ish. It's going to be a little bit steeper in some areas. And you're probably not going to be able to run up this for everyone. Some people will, and that's great, but I wouldn't make this a stamp on the course. I wouldn't make this say, hey, I'm absolutely running up Palani. I don't care. If that's your thing, fine. But I wouldn't put that message in your head on race day. You might be disappointed when you get there. This happens at about the 7.5 mile area out on course, so you are pretty deep into the run at this point, and you should be ready to rock and roll or kind of self-corrected a little bit by the time you get here. And the real meat and potatoes of the course happens right before and pretty much right afterwards. It's time to go. It is time to go. After this point in time, we are slowly making our climb up to the airport, and then we go run through the lava fields back through here, this section. One of the bigger keys out here, this is a very, very critical section of the race. We have about 350 feet of our elevation gain here. That wind that was pushing you or preventing you from going into T2 is going to be there still. So again, keep that in mind as we flip back to our little app here. This is going to be what you're running up right through here. Okay, so I mean, the wind is still going to be there. If we switch, let's just switch to 5 p.m. so you can kind of get a gauge off of what's going to happen. And you saw that shift, I hope. The wind will change. The wind will change, but the wind is still going to be there. All right. So depending on what happens, it might help throw you up these hills, or it might, kind of prevent you from going up these hills a little bit. And that's okay. Don't let that mentally get you down. This is an up and down area of the course, and this is one of the lonelier sections out on course. You just had this awesome experience on Alihi Drive. People are everywhere. It's where all the hotels are for the most part. And it's just people dense there. It's easy to get that motivation there. Once you climb Palani, take the left-hand turn, it gets kind of lonely out there. It's just kind of you guys out there. You might see some bikers if you're a faster athlete, and you're just going to see a lot of runners out there in cones. And that can be a mentally daunting aspect of this run. Just be mentally sharp out here. Don't let it get you down if you start to kind of find yourself swirling in a downward spiral. You got this. You got this. You're there. And this is kind of another aspect that most people don't talk about. By the time you start to get in this section out through here, if you're past the time cutoffs, right? If you know you're going to finish, every step closer is a step closer to the finish line, which is awesome, and also kind of it brings you to the end of your goal, right? So some athletes just kind of they don't mentally, they don't give up, but they just kind of slow down naturally out on this course, and it's something that most people don't talk about, but it's a real thing out here. But as you approach the airport and the lava fields, you do have to climb up to get there, right? A newer aspect of this course is there is a little turnaround right through here, right? So you'll go run out and you'll run back, do a little turnaround, and then back up. So this is going to kind of be a little annoying on race day. You could get a good gauge of who's around you if you're having a great day, or if you're having a struggling day, you can see who's kind of coming up on you. You have the ability to kind of get maybe a couple of seconds of time split, but I just want to bring that up because that one is a new piece this year. This out and back right here is, it's also, again, not the most mentally stimulating area out on course. You get through there, it's hot, it's muggy, it's musty, it's just hot. It's hot back there. So what you need to be doing up until this point is kind of temperature regulating. So by the time you get up through here, you're not totally cooked in here. The energy lab is not super hard from an elevation standpoint. It's hard because it's hot and everything that you have done leading up to it. All right, you make it. You can make it as hard as you want it right there. But if you've prepared yourself for it, it's going to be difficult, but it's not going to be impossibly difficult like a lot of people will face on race day. After you get through that section on the run, you're going to have to climb out of it, absolutely, right? And then once you make that right-hand turn, you're slowly coming back down, and you will kind of drop down. The elevation declines here, you're going to have 2.5% in here, but a lot of it's going to be in the 1.5% to 2% area, which is doable to run down if you're having a decent day, but this is also an area where people start to cramp up, and this is at, this can happen at mile 19 and a half. So there's still a decent chunk of time to run. If you're having a great day, watch out, world. You're going to be passing a lot of people through this point in time. Mark my words. And as you get closer and closer, the run, your running form becomes more critical and critical as the race goes on, right? You do have some bits of elevation that are going to keep coming at you, so that ability to be able to keep running down the road, even if you're just maintaining at this point, is going to be critical for you to have a good day. If you are having a bad day at this point in time, don't give up. Please, please, please don't give up. Alarm bells should be going off. You should be going down your checklist, Don't make this a walk if it doesn't have to be a walk. It's okay to walk, right? But figure out why you're walking and correct it, Finish strong on this course. Going back up to Palani down here, you will get dumped down here. So that same percentage grade that you went up, you're going to have to go down. And again, a lot of people say they are going to run up it and down it. If you can do that, that's great. That's great. But on race day, you're going to see a lot of people walking both up and especially down on the way back into town. Okay. Uh, then you're going to take your, this is kind of where it hits people, the hot corner. Once they get to the hot corner for the final time, it's like a rush of emotion and it's just a great experience out there. And this kind of curl back into the finish, it's the fastest piece of road you will ever run. Even if you're walking, it just goes in the blink of an eye. So, last bit of advice for everyone out there on race day. When you get to the energy lab, you know, don't rush the finish line mentally. Okay? Think about everything that got you there. Think about how awesome it is. You know, you just got to race Ironman Kona. You know, a lot of people uh, would be very grateful to have an opportunity to be where you guys are. I hope everyone has an awesome race out there. My athletes, I'll be in touch soon. Everybody else, if you have any questions, please reach out. Hope everyone has a great 2023 addition to our Ironman Kona this year. Good luck to everybody.